Hello there. Um, Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff with the new um update here. Um, Sorry, I'm pausing the game. Just give myself a second. Um, yeah, just see about the whole sphere here, the first thing, good stuff. Oh, what's lagging? Nice, non-existent damage you're doing, buddy. Why is it lagging so much? What the hell? Um, Whoa. I didn't even see all these new they changed around some settings here. Holy frick. Um okay, that's new. See through use. Oh, they made that be a different thing than the actual textured thing, so that's cool. Chunk fade. Um okay. I don't really know what to do about. Oh, I think that's I don't know if that's new or not. I don't remember. But okay. Um So anyways, here just I didn't play any Minecraft, well, Minecraft Java at least yesterday, so I didn't really get to, you know, I can't speak. I didn't really get to like fully play around with using the spear and some of the new mounts and all that, you know. Um, I did like a little bit of testing on Bedrock Edition when I was playing on there just a little bit randomly yesterday, but not very much. And it was also really, really laggy. Um, but anyways, so I would just say, so my kind of personal thought on the new spear weapon, I definitely think it's pretty OP. I think it may not, my kind of thought, honestly, is it might not deal like maybe the same like amount of damage that the mace can. Because the mace has just a higher starting damage, and also just like you can just fall super high. And you can basically just one shot anything that way. It's not guaranteed that you'll basically one shot most things with the spear immediately, but you can still, even just with like a regular lunge, they have probably like a diamond or netherite spear. I haven't really tested all the different tiers or anything. I've really only played around with the netherite one and the wooden one just for a second. I just wanted to compare, just to know the thing where like the higher tiers basically are like heavier. So like, they do this whole like animation where they drop much faster, kind of dealio. But regardless of that, I think I'm definitely still gonna choose to go with the netherite spear. It might be it might be like technically the slowest in terms of like attack speed for all the different spears. But I think I'm okay with that. Mostly just because I like having a lot more durability. Because again, netherite makes your diamond stuff last for like a really long time, you know. And also, I just like having all my stuff be the best possible year that way. I don't have to keep on replacing all of my things all the time. But anyways, so let's actually just go ahead and jump back on the horse here, and we'll just do some stuff I can show you a little bit. So it is raining right now, so that probably doesn't help. So let me go and turn that off real quick. So weather, clear. Probably has to make my game a little bit less laggy. It tends to rain. When it rains on here, it makes my game laggier. I'm not really sure why that is, but so yeah. And I do have the little coach. I have the fire resistance knife strength level 1 on. It's probably affecting my actual damage output here, of course, and how much I'm going to be taking. But nonetheless, that's still kind of cool. Oh, nice. A little bit of damage you're dealing there, buddy. And, oh, I got mushrooms. Do the zombie horse drop those? Huh. Maybe. I thought I saw something that they did. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is because I don't remember ever being able to get red mushrooms from killing zombies. But anyways, pretty cool. I definitely think the spear kind of makes this whole thing is about like it's called the Mounts of Mayhem, right? I definitely think that the spear goes really well with it. I think that was a really well designed thing that Game went with for this whole update. It's definitely a pretty good weapon. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, of course, I know I have, I don't know how realistic it is for myself here because again, this is just a random creative world that I had where I've basically just been fighting mobs and survival while I just think about other stuff. Kind of just a random world. It's not a normal one, obviously. But it's still definitely really cool. I don't really know what I'm saying here. Sorry. um, I think I would probably be more inclined to use a horse. Or probably also the new Nautilus, guys. Simply just because, now I can actually use them to fight things a lot more effectively. And it's also just really fun and really cool to just be like, oh, I can joust things now, and I can do that instead of trying to instead of like what we had like before here. Let me go ahead and pull my sword out. So what we had to do before is you would try to run up to things and you'd smack it with your sword. Which it can work. It can totally work. And of course this is like a Smite 5 fire aspect too, so forth, so on, sword. So again, maybe not the most realistic, but one major problem with that is it's a lot harder to get the damage It's a lot harder to consistently hit everything with the sword. I don't know, maybe it's just me because I don't really use horses too much and whatnot. But oh, and the spider can't even hit me. Hello, sucker. Now, I am curious. I haven't tested it yet because, again, this is only a single-player world. But now I've heard that supposedly the spear can disable shields. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but as well as that, something about if you're using the spear and you're also fighting someone else who's using the spear. Sometimes with your momentum, even though it can allow you to deal more damage yourself, that it will actually make it easier for the other player to damage you instead of if you were just standing still. I don't know if that's true or not, but at least that's what I've heard online somewhere. Oh, wait, what? Just curious. Mob Kebab. Get 5 balls in the same charge attack using the spear. Well, that's pretty cool. I knew they added a new advancement. I just didn't remember what it was called, but that's pretty cool. And why does it do the whole spear jabbing animation when I throw stuff out of the inventory? That's weird. But so yeah, we finally have netherite horse armor. Let's go. That's super, super cool. I like that. Makes it much more consistent now because I always just thought it looks really weird whenever I just be like, oh, here I am. I have full netherite and I'm on top of a diamond horse, and it just looked so weird. And honestly, I just think that this netherite horse armor is pretty fire. It looks super cool. Definitely pretty well done. I like it. And also, just a nice little bit of gold with the whole saddle here. I think that's a very nice touch. also complements my character well, since I like having um, the old trimmed netherite armor. So again, it just like matches even more on that front. Now again, I don't really know how likely I am to actually use the horse too much in terms of like combat in any sort of like future survival worlds or servers that I've participated in or anything like that. Um, Mostly just because I don't really like having to bring around a bunch of mobs with me everywhere that I go, and it is sometimes slightly inconvenient to do so. So what I'm probably more realistically likely to do is, I'm gonna much more likely, if I am using this spear, I'm gonna be using with an elytra, assuming I have one. So let me just show you a little bit of what that looks like in terms of like actual combat here. You know, and it's a little laggy right now, so it's like maybe not the best example. Um, it's just a little weird that you can't do any crits with the spear there, but it will also be slightly annoying. The whole lunge attack, that it drains your hunger really, really fast, but it is a lot better than I think how it was originally, where you could even put it with mending, and it would basically just like break your spear after like so many uses, because the durability cost was insanely high. Definitely a little laggy right now. Not gonna lie. Okay, I can't even hit anything, but you guys have to take my word for it. I was doing really well with this earlier. I don't really know why it's being laggy. Um, not a good, not a great example of using the spear here. But I think you get the idea, right? It's gonna be very, very powerful, because the whole thing with the spear again, right? Is like the faster that you're going, or basically the higher velocity that you have, and you deal more damage. And the elytra is a very, very good way of doing that. Of course, I mean, we already use it. So many people already use it for transportation. It's like a pretty OP item to have. It's super, super helpful already, even just for like normal survival. And it's definitely also used for things like, mace PvP a lot, for sure. Um, Holy shit. But yeah, I have a couple of reasons why I think I'm not going to be likely to change my mind about my favorite weapon in Minecraft. Which in case you didn't know is the Netherite axe, or I could just say the axe in general. Um, One thing is kind of small. It's not really the biggest reason, but that I have with the whole spear is just going to require like a lot more hunger usage. It also requires a bit more setup, you know. Um, and it's not really as applicable for other things that I like doing, such as speed running or building or anything like that. Not to say it wouldn't be fun to use it while I'm doing those a little bit. Um, but I do kind of feel like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to have a spear. I feel like that's for sure. I feel like I feel like I'm more inclined to use a spear on a more regular basis than I would a mace. Um, I do like maces, and I definitely think they're a pretty OP and fun weapon to use. But they're also just very, very risky. And if you want to use them effectively, you basically either have to like put on an elytra and sacrifice, you know, your whole chest plate thing here. Which again, this is also a problem with the spear as well. Or you have to like either just be in very, very particular, situations or scenarios where you just happen to be higher up than your opponent, which doesn't always happen, especially when PvP. It's a lot harder to maintain. Um, and also like, it's you're very likely to take a lot of damage yourself if you don't get the hit. Now, I think there's a bit less risk with using this spear than compared to the mace, um, because really, all you don't need to be, you know, you don't need to be trying to like, um, you don't need to be like basically diving down trying to hit things from the air. You can instead just like, walk along the ground, or you can ride on top of a Nautilus or a Strider or a pig or any of the other mounts, of the game. And they can allow you to do it like a pretty good amount of damage with it. And I think it would be especially OP, probably around like the mid game time or maybe middle late game kind of experience, or especially if you're fighting massive groups of enemies, or stuff like the Warden or the Wither or the Ender Dragon. I think it's very, very good. I think it's a very good weapon. It certainly does what it's supposed to do. It fulfills its role very well. But one of the things that I think I'm still going to choose the axe is, first and foremost, one thing that I really like with this weapon here is, okay, well, not only is it really easy to just deal a lot of damage to anything, even if I say just had like a stone axe, right? Just a normal stone axe, literally just 3 cobblestone or 3 blackstone or 3 deep slate and just 2 sticks, right? And it's just strength like that, right? I can already just deal damage with a normal hit, or like a bit more than that. And I can't really do quite the same thing with the sword, because again, like the sword here only does 5 damage, and then with, say if I want to use a stone spear, right, that only does 2 damage, but that's insanely low. And I know that there's probably gonna be some people out there on YouTube who are all like, oh, I recommend, using a lower tier spear just because, like, right, it attacks much faster. And it is true. Like, if you compare here, right, like, all the swords do 1.6 attack damage, and the lowest tier spear, Wooden, is a 1.54. Where you could actually say, wait, I'm confused here. So you're saying the gold spear and the wooden one are actually off in there, whereas in the other areas, the golden and wooden are basically the same in terms of most statistics anyways. Well, at least for the sword anyways. I'm not talking about durability there, I know it's different. But, nonetheless, right. Also, the axe is just, it's a lot more multi-purpose. You already use it to cut wood or strip wood, use it to break all sorts of different random blocks, whether it be leaves or crops of any kind, whether you have fortune on it or not, or even use silk touch. It works very well either way. Whether you're harvesting carrots with an axe for some reason, or you're chopping melons, it works really well either way. But, you also have to use the axe to disable shields and whatnot anyways. And even in just like normal survival, even just single player, anything like that, where, you don't have, well, there's no mobs that actually use shields, so that's not really an issue. Well, then you can just run up to them and just bonk and just 2-shot. Now, I know I have strength here, but like, okay, I'm just gonna clear effects. Or, effect clear itself. Right. So, we don't have any effects now. So let's just go up to the skeleton, which we're gonna assume is just full health, right? One, two. Super, super easy. But with a spear, you have to, like, get up to them and target them a whole bunch, you know, and you have to, like, make yourself really vulnerable in that way. So, like, if you're fighting something like a creeper, which is a pretty unique mob, right? If you're using a spear, then you're basically walking into where it's to explode, and if you don't manage to move out of, if you don't manage to kill it in one or two hits, really really fast, or or you don't manage to get out of its radius, then it'll just blow up on you, and you can't even use a shield when you're using a spear, just because again the spear has two different kinds of attacks. He does both a right and left click, so like you can't really. I mean, you can put the shield in your offhand, but if you want to be able to use it, you have to switch to a different item, which just makes it slightly more inconvenient to fight anything, right? That's not really a problem with with fighting with an axe or or even a sword, um, or a mace, right? Although with a mace, that's obviously a bit different. Because a sword and axe, more traditional combat, you just go up to something, you just whack it until it dies. But with a mace, you have to like the main point of it is that you're falling, so like it wouldn't really make sense for you to use your shield unless you're just trying to block attack immediately right after that. But you can still use it while you're doing that. You know. Um, and the other thing with the spear is like it can be good like at I'm assuming it probably like an iron tier or better. Just fighting like most mobs and all that. Even if you don't have any mounts that you're on, but it's probably going to take quite a good bit more hits than just that, which you can literally do with a stone, iron, copper, or diamond axe that just has no enchantments on it at all. You don't even have to like have as good gear to protect you from exposure from the mobs that you're fighting or players that you're fighting. You know, um, because yeah, you just have to be a lot more vulnerable when you're using it. Whereas all you really need to use the axe well is just a good shield, which is literally also insanely cheap, right? And literally just, you know, six planks and one iron ingot, which is crazy. So those are just kind of some of my thoughts there. Um, I definitely think that the spear is pretty cool. I think that I'm really excited and interested to see how how people use it. Excuse me. And any sort of non-combat type stuff that they might come up with, like how for example, with the trident, it's also very useful with the elytra. Which actually, speaking of which, one thing that I discovered earlier on was that you can actually use the trident as basically kind of like an assistive weapon to use, you know, the spear a lot more effectively. So that's just kind of a really cool thing. I mean, I already knew you could use it um, for fighting with a mace. Now, I haven't really seen very many people do that because, again, most of the time you're probably just going to be doing the whole, pearl, pearl, and wind charge trick, or just flying up with an elytra or something like that, which is a pretty good way of fighting Mace Fifi. I'm not really going to talk about that too much since I'm not really a Mace PvPer myself. Never really have been. But the Trident is really good for that. It just launches you up super high, and you either can just use the rain, or all you have to do is just literally place this item down. Just place one single block of water, and then just yeah, and you get the idea. But Anyways, thanks for watching this. If you did, feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.